It began with a series of coordinated actions that stretched across one of the most strategically sensitive regions on Earth. Across the Gulf, commercial shipping routes, energy infrastructure, and a major international airport suddenly became targets. Before we move forward, if you value clear, fact-based news without the noise, take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an important update. Iran launched drone and missile attacks across multiple locations. The targets were not concentrated in a single place. Instead, the activity spread across maritime lanes, oil facilities, and airspace connected to major economic centers. The region affected by these actions includes some of the most heavily traveled shipping corridors in global trade. And it includes infrastructure that sits at the center of the world's energy system. When events unfold in that space, the effects ripple far beyond the region itself. Iranian drones were reported striking near Dubai International Airport. The airport is one of the busiest aviation hubs in the world. Despite the impact near the facility, airport operations continued. Flights were not halted, but 4 people were injured in the strike near the airport. That detail alone illustrates how close the attacks came to civilian infrastructure. Dubai International Airport sits at the crossroads of global aviation. Every day, aircraft from dozens of countries move through its terminals and runways. And yet, despite the proximity of the strike, the airport remained operational. Meanwhile, the attacks were not confined to airspace. Out in the waters near the Strait of Hormuz, another event unfolded. A Thai cargo vessel was struck. The vessel had been traveling near one of the narrowest and most important maritime passages in the world. After the strike, 3 crew members were reported missing. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway linking the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. A significant portion of the world's oil shipments pass through that channel. Ships carrying crude oil, liquefied natural gas, and other goods travel those waters daily. So when a cargo vessel is hit near that strait, it becomes more than a maritime incident. It becomes a moment that draws attention across international shipping networks. At the same time these incidents were unfolding, several Gulf nations reported defensive responses. Saudi Arabia intercepted Iranian drones. Kuwait also intercepted Iranian drones and missiles. Those interceptions took place during the same wave of attacks. The coordinated nature of the launches meant that multiple countries had to respond in real time. Air defense systems in the region were activated. Military monitoring networks began tracking incoming drones and missiles. And those systems moved quickly. Some of the projectiles were intercepted before reaching their targets. Others were stopped while moving across regional airspace. Even so, some drones and missiles reached locations close to their intended objectives. That includes the strike near Dubai International Airport and the attack on the cargo vessel near the Strait of Hormuz. Oil facilities were also among the locations targeted during this wave of attacks. Energy infrastructure across the Gulf plays a central role in global supply chains. Facilities in that region process, store, and transport large volumes of oil and gas. They connect pipelines, shipping routes, and export terminals. And because of that role, they often become focal points during periods of regional tension. The attacks came during a period already marked by military activity. U.S. airstrikes have been taking place against targets in Iran. Israeli airstrikes have also targeted Hezbollah-linked locations in Lebanon. Those strikes form part of the broader backdrop surrounding the current escalation. Military activity across multiple countries had already been underway. The drone and missile launches added another layer to that environment. The timeline of these events places the attacks amid that wider pattern of strikes and counterstrikes. In other words, the region was already under significant pressure. And then this coordinated wave of drones and missiles entered the picture. When you step back and look at the geography involved, the scale becomes clearer. Dubai, the Strait of Hormuz, oil facilities across the Gulf, interceptions in Saudi Arabia, interceptions in Kuwait, multiple airspaces, multiple maritime zones, all connected within a relatively short span of time. It's the kind of moment where several separate incidents are unfolding simultaneously, each one carrying its own consequences, each one touching a different piece of critical infrastructure: aviation, shipping, energy production, and the defensive responses from neighboring states. Those pieces together form the outline of what happened. But the details inside that outline reveal how closely these events came to major civilian and commercial systems. For people injured near one of the busiest airports in the world. 3 crew members missing from a cargo vessel traveling near a global shipping choke point. Air defense systems intercepting incoming drones and missiles over multiple countries. Energy facilities placed in the crosshairs, all within the same wave of attacks. There is a line often heard in moments like this, a line that captures the gravity without adding anything beyond what is already known. Sometimes the quietest moment is when everyone realizes how close things came. And in this case, those moments stretched across the Gulf. From the waters near the Strait of Hormuz, to the skies above major cities, to the infrastructure that powers the global energy market. The attacks marked a coordinated action across several fronts, and the region's defenses were activated in response. The full sequence of events continued to unfold across land, sea, and air, because what happened next involves how those attacks intersected with existing military operations already underway in the region, and how multiple governments reacted as the situation developed further. As the wave of launches moved across the Gulf region, the pattern of events began to take clearer shape. The targets were not limited to one location, and they were not limited to one type of infrastructure. Instead, the attacks reached into several critical systems that operate side by side in that region. Shipping routes, oil facilities, airspace surrounding one of the busiest international airports in the world, each one connected to daily global movement of people, cargo, and energy, and each one touched during the same sequence of events. Out on the water near the Strait of Hormuz, the attack on the Thai cargo vessel remained one of the most serious maritime incidents connected to the launches. The vessel had been operating near the narrow passage linking the Persian Gulf to the wider ocean. That passage is a critical maritime corridor. Ships carrying oil, gas, and commercial goods move through it every day. When the cargo vessel was struck, the consequences immediately extended beyond the vessel itself. 3 crew members were reported missing. For the people working aboard that ship, the attack was not an abstract geopolitical development. It was an immediate emergency unfolding in open water. The crew on board would have been navigating one of the busiest shipping channels in the world when the strike occurred. And the Strait of Hormuz is not a wide ocean passage. It is a narrow gateway between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Tankers, cargo vessels, and support ships pass through those waters in tightly managed lanes. So when a vessel in that corridor is struck, the location itself becomes part of the event. The proximity to that choke point makes every maritime incident there closely watched. At the same time, airspace across the region was becoming increasingly active. Several Gulf nations began intercepting incoming drones and missiles. Saudi Arabia reported intercepting Iranian drones. Kuwait reported intercepting both drones and missiles. Those interceptions took place as the launches crossed into regional airspace. Air defense systems are designed to detect, track, and neutralize incoming aerial threats. When those systems activate, it usually means that radar networks have identified objects moving toward defended territory. That process unfolded during the same sequence of events. The drones and missiles launched by Iran did not move through empty skies. They crossed areas monitored by military tracking systems. Those systems responded quickly. In Saudi Arabia, defensive systems intercepted drones before they could reach their targets. In Kuwait, both drones and missiles were intercepted. Each interception represented a moment where an incoming object was detected and neutralized in midair. Those defensive responses unfolded nearly simultaneously across multiple countries. And while those interceptions were taking place, the strike near Dubai International Airport had already occurred. The drones struck near the airport. 4 people were injured. But the airport itself continued operating. Dubai International Airport is one of the busiest aviation hubs anywhere. Flights from across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East pass through its runways. Passenger traffic moves through its terminals at all hours. Even during the attack near the airport, operations continued. Aircraft continued to arrive and depart. The airport remained open. That fact alone places the incident into a very narrow window, close enough to the airport to cause injuries, but not disruptive enough to halt operations. And that detail illustrates the precision of location involved. Airspace around large international airports is normally tightly controlled. Commercial aircraft approach and depart through designated corridors. Ground systems coordinate those movements continuously. Yet during this wave of attacks, a drone strike occurred near that environment. Meanwhile, the oil facilities targeted in the attacks represent another key element of the regional infrastructure network. The Gulf region contains some of the world's largest energy production and export facilities. Those facilities connect wells, refineries, pipelines, and export terminals. They form part of a system that moves crude oil and natural gas into global markets. When such facilities are targeted, the focus quickly shifts to the stability of that infrastructure. Even the possibility of disruption attracts international attention because energy flows from that region power economies around the world. So when drones and missiles are directed toward oil facilities, the consequences extend far beyond the immediate location. Energy traders monitor the situation. Shipping companies monitor the situation. Governments monitor the situation. And the defensive interceptions by neighboring countries form part of that wider response. Across Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, air defenses engaged incoming drones and missiles. Each interception represents a system functioning as designed. Radar detects. Tracking systems confirm the object's path. Defensive missiles launch. And an interception occurs. That chain of actions unfolded repeatedly during the wave of launches. Meanwhile, the broader context surrounding these attacks involves military activity already underway elsewhere in the region. U.S. airstrikes had been targeting sites in Iran. Israeli airstrikes had been targeting Hezbollah-linked locations in Lebanon. Those strikes were already taking place before the drone and missile launches. The attacks across the Gulf occurred during that ongoing environment of military operations. So as the drones and missiles moved across shipping lanes and airspace, the region was already experiencing active military engagement. Events were already in motion. And the launches from Iran introduced additional pressure into that situation. At times like this, the details can feel almost clinical. Coordinates, interceptions, infrastructure, maritime corridors. But inside those details are human moments. Crew members aboard a cargo ship, airport workers and travelers near a major aviation hub, air defense operators monitoring radar screens, all connected through the same sequence of events. There is a line that sometimes captures that quiet human dimension, a line that does not add any new information, but simply reflects the moment. Somewhere tonight, someone looked up at the sky and understood how close the world can feel. In this case, that understanding stretched across sea routes and airspace, from the waters near the Strait of Hormuz to the air defenses activated in neighboring countries, to the strike near one of the world's busiest airports. Each part forming another layer in the unfolding escalation. And as those events settled into place, attention began shifting to how the situation would be understood in the wider context of ongoing military actions involving the United States, Israel, Iran, and Hezbollah-linked targets. That wider frame is where the final part of this sequence takes shape, because the attacks did not occur in isolation. They arrived during a period already marked by airstrikes and rising tensions across multiple borders. As the wave of drone and missile attacks spread across the Gulf, the broader military environment surrounding those events was already active. The launches did not occur in isolation. They unfolded during a period in which airstrikes were already taking place in multiple locations connected to the same regional tensions. U.S. forces had been conducting airstrikes on targets in Iran. Israeli forces had been carrying out airstrikes against Hezbollah-linked targets in Lebanon. Those operations were already underway. They formed part of the background in which the drone and missile attacks occurred. When events like these are examined carefully, the timeline becomes essential. The sequence matters, because each development can only be fully understood within the moment in which it happened. And in this case, the launches by Iran arrived during an environment already shaped by military activity. Across the region, aircraft had already been flying strike missions. Targets had already been selected. Explosions had already taken place at locations connected to those earlier operations. Against that backdrop, the coordinated drone and missile attacks added another layer to the situation. The strikes across the Gulf targeted commercial shipping routes. They targeted oil facilities. And drones struck near Dubai International Airport. Each location reflects a different element of the region's infrastructure. Commercial shipping routes carry cargo between continents. Oil facilities connect energy production with global markets. Airports link cities across the world through passenger travel and freight. The attacks reached into all three of those systems. At Dubai International Airport, drones struck near the airport grounds. 4 people were injured. Despite the proximity of the strike, airport operations continued. Flights continued arriving and departing. The airport remained open. That moment illustrates the closeness of the attack to a major aviation hub without interrupting the airport's functioning. Meanwhile, at sea, the cargo vessel near the Strait of Hormuz had already been struck. 3 crew members were reported missing following the attack. The vessel had been operating in waters that serve as one of the most important maritime corridors in the world. Oil shipments pass through that narrow strait every day. Commercial goods move through the same route. Ships traveling from the Persian Gulf toward international markets must navigate through that passage. So when a cargo vessel is struck there, the location itself becomes central to the event. It is not only a maritime incident involving one ship. It is an event that unfolds at a critical gateway between the Gulf and the open ocean. At the same time, Gulf countries responded through defensive interceptions. Saudi Arabia intercepted Iranian drones. Kuwait intercepted Iranian drones and missiles. Those interceptions occurred as the incoming objects crossed into their monitored airspace. Air defense systems were activated. Tracking networks followed the path of drones and missiles as they moved across the region. Defensive systems responded by launching interceptors designed to neutralize incoming threats. Each interception represented a defensive action taken in response to the launches. Those actions were part of the broader reaction from neighboring countries as the attacks unfolded. Across the Gulf, the events were occurring in parallel. Drones and missiles launched from Iran. Interceptions by Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. A drone strike near Dubai International Airport. A cargo vessel hit near the Strait of Hormuz. And oil facilities among the locations targeted. When placed side by side, those elements form the full scope of the escalation. The sequence connects land, sea, and air, energy infrastructure, shipping routes, civil aviation, regional air defenses, all appearing within the same chain of events. And surrounding those developments were the earlier airstrikes involving the United States and Israel. U.S. airstrikes targeting sites in Iran. Israeli airstrikes targeting Hezbollah-linked sites in Lebanon. Those operations had already been underway when the drone and missile launches occurred. So the escalation across the Gulf arrived in a region where military action was already taking place. The geography involved stretches across multiple borders. Iran, the Gulf waters near the Strait of Hormuz, Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Lebanon, each location appearing as part of the broader environment surrounding these events. Some locations experienced direct strikes. Others intercepted incoming drones and missiles. And others were already experiencing airstrikes connected to the ongoing tensions. When moments like this unfold, the individual details can appear scattered at first. A drone near an airport. A cargo ship struck at sea. Interceptions over neighboring countries. Airstrikes occurring elsewhere in the region. But when those pieces are placed together chronologically, the picture becomes clearer. A coordinated set of launches, multiple defensive responses, targets across different types of infrastructure, and an already active military environment shaping the timing of those events. Sometimes, in the middle of such moments, a simple reflection captures the weight of the situation without adding anything beyond what is already known. A quiet sentence spoken in the space between events. History has a way of arriving all at once. And in this case, that arrival stretched across the Gulf region. From the airspace near Dubai International Airport, to the waters near the Strait of Hormuz, to oil facilities targeted during the attacks, to defensive interceptions in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, and to the earlier airstrikes already underway in Iran and Lebanon, each piece forming part of the same unfolding escalation, each moment connected through the same chain of events. By the end of that sequence, the region had experienced a coordinated set of drone and missile launches, defensive interceptions by neighboring states, a maritime strike near one of the world's most important shipping passages, injuries near a major international airport, and attacks directed at energy infrastructure. All of it taking place within the context of ongoing airstrikes elsewhere in the region. And together, those details form the full account of the escalation described in this report.